Hello, I'm Rowe. I'm the President and CEO of America's SBDCs, and we're here today to have a little conversation about protecting personal information and confidential information. And with me is Leslie Fair, the Senior Attorney for the Bureau of Consumer Protection at the Federal Trade Commission, and Brian Olson, the Chairman of the California Cybersecurity Risk Management Task Force. Now, part of what we're going to talk about is the Cybersecurity Maturity Model, which is the Department of Defense's model for helping businesses protect varying levels of confidential information. Not just business information or business employee information, but also customers' confidential information. So, Leslie, let's begin by defining confidential information, or PII. How does the FTC define PII? Are there laws that require businesses to keep that sensitive data secure?
Under both the Federal Trade Commission Act, plus something called the Safeguards Rule that the FTC enforces, plus other statutes like HIPAA dealing in the healthcare sector, all of them require businesses to maintain reasonable security of confidential information. It's not just the law, it just makes good business sense too. The difficulty with both state and federal statutes is that they often define terms differently. They may use terms like PII or confidential information. Obviously, companies need to know what statute applies to them, but I think the gut method is, for just a moment, businesses need to think like the bad guys, because the best way to think of the information you need to secure is the information that fraudsters can use to commit identity theft or other crimes. For example, just a name really can't be used. Just a random date of birth can't be used. But put those two pieces of information together and a fraudster may be able to get a fake birth certificate, a fake driver's license. So the best way to think about it is to, for just a moment, have the mindset of a bad guy and think, can this information be misused? Both, as you said, customer information, employee information, really the broad scope of data.
Thanks, Leslie. And Brian, what can you tell us about the new privacy laws that are actually coming online in California?
Yeah, California has led the nation pretty much in privacy legislation. They passed the California Consumer Privacy Act a couple of years ago, and that put a lot of new protections in around consumer data. And there's a lot of details to it, but really just anything that is personal to you is, even from your eating habits to your favorite color, all kinds of stuff can be considered private and protected information. So it's best to protect everything you have about a consumer. There's a number of penalties as well that are in these laws. In fact, the current one that's in effect now, we'll just call it CCPA, California Consumer Privacy Act 1.0. It polled in the 90% range, and they actually have a 2.0 on the ballot, Proposition 24, that even imposes more penalties on businesses. So, and the key to that is there's, I think at last count, 17 other states that have copied our Consumer Privacy Act legislation with misspellings and everything, and it's working their way through. So it doesn't matter where you're at in the United States, you are going to be subject to this type of a privacy law. So it's very astute as a business to protect the consumer's privacy and make that part of your CMMC efforts, and just do it. There's no way to get around it these days. Almost all businesses are subject to it. So it's prudent to do it. It's the way to protect your business.
Wow. Well, Leslie, when we think about the California protections and the new laws that are coming online in other states and the cybersecurity maturity model, what advice does the FTC have to give business owners? Where should they begin?
Certainly, all statutes are different, models are different, but I think there are some fundamental cornerstone principles that run through all of them. The first, start with security. It is a very 20th century old-fashioned way of doing business to collect personal information just because you can. The wiser approach is to collect personal information only if you have a legitimate business need to have it, because once you have it, you have taken on a legal obligation to keep it secure. Also, by starting with security, by doing it from the very beginning, makes it much easier and much more cost effective. Think of it this way. Let's say you're making a cake. Once the cake is coming out of the oven and you then realize you forgot to put in the baking powder, it's too late. You can't go in after the fact and correct the mistake. So starting with security is a key factor. And if you don't have it in your possession, you don't have to lose sleep at night wondering if you're keeping it safe. The second thing is to control access to data sensibly. Not everyone in every business needs access to everything. Just thinking in my own work, the guys that are responsible for sending out our bulk brochures in the mailroom don't need the social security numbers of employees. However, perhaps our payroll and personnel people do. So it's a matter of limiting who has access to information. There should be not many all backstage passes given in this area. Limit it based on people's actual job descriptions. Another thing is to certainly make sure that your service providers, you as a contractor, plus contractors and subs that you use, meet your same high standards. The FTC has taken action against a number of companies that sell industry-specific software that many businesses use, only to find out that that software had holes in it. So exercise your due diligence, just as companies are going to insist on building security into your contracts, build security into your contracts with others. Another thing is to keep your security current. Know what vulnerabilities are out there. Hackers are wily. The situation is a moving target. And that's one of the reasons why you need to have people in charge with their ear to the ground. One example from one case, it was the person in charge of that went out on an extended medical leave at the company, and no one else was performing that function in her place. Even the FTC's recent settlement with Equifax dealt with a database. Other databases had been checked for a patch. This one, we alleged, had not. The result, we allege, was a massive data breach that many consumers are aware of. So make sure things are kept current. The final thing I would suggest is to think about security of paperwork, of devices, of USB flash drives. It's not just network. And I think especially at a time when many business people are working from home, or in businesses where a lot of us work on the road, you need to make sure that those same tough standards that you impose are also in place when employees are at home or on the road.
Wow, great. Yeah, and I understand that the FTC has put this together in a guide that people can find at your website. Brian, is there anything you'd like to add?
I would just echo what Leslie said as well. It's design this from the ground up. There's a ton of data out there that you're probably collecting that you don't need to. Do a good due diligence and just determine what you need to capture. There's a concept called unstructured data out there. That's all those spreadsheets and everything else that you've got out there that probably contain a ton of marketing data, things like that you know about your consumers that you probably don't need. So get rid of that liability, go through it and do your due diligence. So yeah, absolutely. Just treat privacy the same as security and you'll be fine. And design from the ground up.
Great. Well, Leslie, Brian, thank you very much. This has been very informative. I appreciate your time and all the information. Now, if any of our viewers want more information about protecting your confidential information or your client's confidential information, please, like I said, check out the FTC's website or check out our America's SBDC website or just Google CMMC. Again, I'm T. Rowe, and thank you all very much. Brian, Leslie, thanks.